Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going over a press release that you probably haven't heard of or remember from Palantir back in December 2021. Now, I remember when this press release came out. This is when I really started covering the company, and they were putting out a press release like every 5 days. I was like, oh my goodness, there's so much news to cover. And this was an interesting press release at the time. And now, especially we're in the world of AI and everything's going crazy when it comes to how implementing AI in enterprises can really become the next catalyst of growth and trajectory for Palantir. This press release looks more interesting than it ever was. This was a press release that is not going to lead, and to the best of my knowledge, has not led to massive amounts of revenues or contracts or sales, but it was a partnership that was done back in December 2021. And when I saw the partnership, I was like, this is a really interesting way that Palantir software is being implemented within this company. And it kind of further validated, okay, so I really think that if their software can scale, it's going to scale to every company in the world. Like every company has some type of use case with, at the time, Palantir's Foundry. Now, 2 years later, I'm looking at AIP, and I think every company in the world that needs a large language model and needs to implement generative AI in their business and also needs an ontology to ground that large language model in the context of the reality of the organization will also need something like AIP and potentially Foundry as well. So this is a press release that I think kind of signals where Palantir was back in 2021. And as a shareholder, it's important to understand this because, you know, at the end of the day, you're investing in a company and you kind of want to know what were they thinking about years ago. And I think they were thinking about the right things. AI just happened to become mainstream, and now that stuff is coming to fruition. December 2021, Palantir, a leading builder of operating systems for the modern enterprise, and DuPont Therapeutics. Let me know if you guys remember this one in the comments if you remember seeing this when it came out in real time. I know a lot of people probably forgot about it, but this is one that has always stuck in my mind for a long time. The leading biomolecular condensates company today announced a partnership for Palantir's Foundry platform to help power DuPont's efforts to discover treatments and cures for the most challenging diseases. We are talking about drug discovery and AI, and this press release I think is going to add a lot of context to what that is. So let's read a little bit from it, and then we're going to go further. Palantir and Foundry will help to enable researchers at DuPont to further their understanding of condensates biology by analyzing lab data along with other sources, including data from the published literature and databases, to identify new compounds and therapeutic approaches. DuPont will also use Foundry as the primary platform for its centralized knowledge repository, helping it contextualize its experimental results and prioritize the most viable outcomes. This multi-year agreement marks one of Palantir's most comprehensive partnerships with a biotech company. Foundry is designed to integrate disparate and siloed information sources to lead data-driven analysis and decision-making. It allows users to track lineage across systems, making it particularly suited for work in life sciences and the biotech sector, where data sources come from several unique and separate systems. Quote from Palantir's head of biotech: "We think DuPont is changing the way the world approaches drug design by exploring new frontiers of disease biology, requiring a game-changing solution that goes beyond cloud infrastructure to drive their R&D at scale with the vision as they grow. We are proud to partner with DuPont and share their passion for working on one of the most exciting translational medicine approaches of our time." Now, why is this so important? One of the largest use cases for LLMs, which is ultimately how Palantir is going to be able to scale AIP, right? Because AIP is their artificial intelligence product that allows you to implement LLMs securely within your enterprise, is life sciences and drug discoveries. The ability to implement a large language model into a Pfizer or a J&J or a DuPont Therapeutics and be able to interact with that LLM to be able to further streamline the ability to actually do drug discovery, to me is a massive bull case, not only for humanity to be able to find drugs to cure problems as quick as we can, but also for Palantir, because what is drug discovery? It's finding disparate data sources that come from, you know, tons of clinical research, from tons of actual things that are happening on the ground, to new discoveries that are happening every single day, condensing all of that, synthesizing that, also synthesizing it with the proprietary data from dozens and probably hundreds of thousands of experiments that the company has already done to be able to inform how that previous stuff can help find new discoveries, putting all of it together, which is basically the ontology for Foundry. But now when you're putting an LLM on top of it, you just have a new way of interacting with the data in and of itself. Another quote from the press release is, "Foundry will help researchers make decisions around compound and target viability and streamline experiments and automate analysis by creating a digital twin of the research environment." And that's going to lead to empower future discoveries. The idea of a digital twin in the context of life sciences and biotech companies is incredibly important, because the way you find drug discoveries, the way you're able to mobilize your data is if you're actually able to have a digital twin of your data and then be able to engage with it in the same way people are engaging with ChatGPT by asking as many questions as possible and getting proprietary answers from it. Novartis is one of the fourth largest pharmaceutical companies in the United States, and their CEO went on CNBC a couple weeks ago and basically said, hey, the reason AI-enabled drug discovery is going to be beneficial for our company is because Palantir built us an ontology 5 years ago. And because now we have an understanding of all of our data and we've continued to only enhance an understanding of our data, our ability to enable AI-based drug discoveries to actually lead to results from a business intelligence side and from an actual drug discovery side is going to be much more possible than it was before. Investing in Palantir means taking a chance on a company that's on the cutting edge of all this stuff. And DewPoint Therapeutics, although we haven't heard from them for a long time, they are one of those companies that's trying to use biomolecular condensates to be able to solve some of these issues. A daring vision on their company, the dysregulation of biomolecular condensates explains the root cause of complex diseases and paves the way to novel therapies. So whether DewPoint is going to be successful or not, they are not a public company, is going to be determined in the future, but having something like a Palantir inside of their company and what they were doing back in 2021 when it came to life sciences just goes to show where Palantir was in the context of implementing disparate data sources, AI, and ultimately enabling artificial intelligence to lead to drug discovery years ago, before AI in the life sciences spaces, which is, kind of the revolution we're having right now with AI in every industry, is happening in 2023. In 2021, they were working on that. Couple of ways that LLMs can actually work to enable AI-based drug discovery in a meaningful way. Number one is data analysis and synthesis. So one of the primary challenges in drug discovery is managing and interpreting vast amounts of data. If you have an LLM, you can synthesize all that data, make sense of it, take large data sets, find patterns in between them. Another way is predictive modeling. So LLMs can be combined with other AI technologies to predict molecular activities, drug interactions, side effects, therapeutic potential, and then basically guide scientists in their research by balancing all the risks and rewards of putting all those drugs together. Another one is automation of routine tasks. Many tasks in the drug discovery process are routine and repetitive. LLMs can automate these tasks, such as the annotation of biological data sets, prediction of protein structures, or even identification of potential drug targets in genomic sequences. As you can see, LLMs can have massive impacts. Another one is hypothesis generation, multidisciplinary integration, and a variety of different ways that LLMs can be implemented into an actual company that is focused on finding drugs, and those drugs can then result in companies or in products that the companies can then sell to be able to drive business value from. My bull case, or one of the bull cases on AIP, is in the drug discovery space, because if a company is not able to discover drugs as quick as another company, for example, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Novartis, Moderna, all of them are competing with each other to be able to get a drug into the market. And to be able to get a drug into the market, you got to deal with the FDA. You got to deal with regulations. You got to deal with side effects. You got to deal with trials. You have to deal with so many different things before a drug finally gets into the market. If you have an edge, just based on the simple examples I named a couple minutes ago, by implementing LLMs into your organization and generative AI to figure out what are the best ways to mitigate the harm and maximize the gains when it comes to finding a drug that works, and you can get it out into the market quicker than all your other peers, you have a legit competitive advantage. I mean, I think the clinical life sciences and drug discovery space is one of the most unique use cases for LLMs because it's the most obvious. If Moderna gets a drug to solve XYZ disease before Pfizer does, Moderna is going to make more money. They're going to sell more of that drug. And the question then becomes, how do they come to the conclusion where they could get a drug to get FDA approved out into the market before Pfizer? Well, they used LLMs. They used AIP. They used some type of generative AI to streamline the process and streamline the results to be able to get it into their organization. So I think LLMs have the potential to revolutionize drug discovery. And I think every major pharmaceutical company in the world, and this is the bull case for Palantir, is going to need some type of LLM in their organization that takes proprietary data that they have that trains the model, but also external pieces of data that can help influence new forms of thinking to be able to create drug discovery. But that stuff needs to be implemented securely, especially when we're talking about drugs, and you probably have a ton of patient data that you're dealing with. And in comes Palantir's AIP to be able to actually enable that stuff to be saved and implemented securely within an organization. If you are a pharmaceutical company like DewPoint Therapeutics, that's a small private company in Boston, or Pfizer, which is a very public brand that's been around for a long time, you're going to have to be using these LLMs. Because if someone's using it and you're not, which is essentially your competitor, you can't be sifting through old legacy software, even through Foundry. I mean, Foundry, as amazing as it is, if AIP can get you the results quicker, then you would have to use something like an AIP. You need to be able to visualize data instantaneously and come up with an answer and then be able to test your hypothesis and move on. And a lot of times it's going to fail because drugs fail all the time. But the quicker you can fail, the quicker you can succeed. I don't see a world in the next 10 years where pharmaceutical companies are not using LLMs and generative AI in order to enable drug discoveries, which means if that's an inevitability, if we accept that that's going to happen, the question simply becomes, what companies are going to be implementing those LLMs securely into those organizations? And I think, maybe there's a lot of other competitors out there over the next couple of months that will emerge over the next couple of years, but it seems like because Palantir was working on this back in 2021, when it came to how can we enable software to help this small, private company in Boston be able to do biomolecular condensate drug discovery in a way that other companies are not doing it. By the way, Palantir also invested in Cellularity. They sold out of their position, but that was a stem cell-based therapy research company that was a SPAC that they invested in, ticker symbol SELU. They liquidated their stake, but they've been on this whole drug discovery thing for a long time, especially using Foundry, because drug discovery is one of the hardest things to do in the world. And if software can make it easier and faster, and AIP and LLMs are just the next version of it, and Palantir's been working on how to use software to enable this stuff years ago. If they were working with DuPont Therapeutics, it makes sense that they're working with Novartis, and the future can tell how many more pharmaceutical companies will be knocking on their door, small startups or large Fortune 50 companies saying, hey, we need these AIP LLMs immediately to be able to implement drug discovery at scale. So I think it's a major bull case for Palantir, and I ultimately think DuPont Therapeutics was just a test case back in 2021 for where the world was going. Obviously, ChatGPT happened in 2023. The world has changed. Now we have LLMs. It seems very likely that what they did with DuPont Therapeutics, they will be able to do with every pharmaceutical company in the world if they can capture, the pharmaceutical market. So those are my thoughts. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Let me know if you heard about DuPont Therapeutics before and what you think the future is of LLMs, AI, drug discovery, and where Palantir could play a role in all that. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I'll see you in the next one.